We live life forward, but we understand it backwards. Purpose. It's the silent driving force of all of our lives. It's that insatiable feeling inside that makes you look up at the sky and say, why am I here? And it happens to be the main thing I've obsessed over for 25 years, all my life. So much so that I made a personal slogan back in 2023. In my mind, living a life that didn't fulfill the reason God put me here on this earth was nothing but a waste of time. And I know that I'm not the only person that feels like that. Recently though, things have started to come into place. I've stopped obsessing over the thought of purpose and finally begun moving in it. And from one person beginning to figure it out to another person who may still be searching, I'd like to share some perspectives with you that helped me reach this place. So let's go backwards in time and understand the pivotal lessons that chasing purpose taught me. After that, I'll share how understanding the difference between purpose and calling really helped everything click into place. Welcome back to the 2000s. This was a much simpler time when all we had to worry about was timetables and figuring out how we were going to watch new episodes of iCarly and Sweet Life at the same time. At this point in time though, something very important was happening also. The seeds of faith were being planted within me. As a little boy, my parents typically left me in the main sanctuary during church service. I could literally count on one hand the amount of times I remember going to children's Bible class. But at some point in this time period, my little ears heard the parable of the talents. If you're unaware of that parable, we listen, we don't judge. It's found in Matthew 25, verses 14 through 30. But here's a quick little refresher. Essentially, there were 3 servant men. Each man was given their share of talents. 2 of those men multiplied their talents. Afterwards, they were told, well done, thou good and faithful servant, by their master. And as for the last man of the 3, he didn't do anything with his talent. And their master was not pleased. His talent was taken away and the master banished him. So as you can probably imagine, little boy me was like, oh nah, I'm not getting banished. I'm about to multiply these talents. The perspective gained here was that the Lord gave me talents and abilities, and with that, I need to do something with it. I also left a link to a sermon within the description that dives deeper into the parable of the talents. But as I look back, I realize how this was the catalyst of my search for purpose. That parable caused many phases for little me to 22-year-old me. Dang near everything I liked at one point was going to be my future career. Like, for real, everything. We'll expand on this a bit later though. Welcome back to the year 2023. Personally, this was probably the most interesting year of my life. I experienced the highs of highs and the lowest of lows all within like 10 months. Not even the full 12. 10 months, bro. But I digress. What's really important is that this was the year I gave my life over to God. And in doing so, a lot of perspectives were gained. So we're just gonna rapid fire through some of these. First, books. Reading is important and it's cool. Second, if there's an issue in this world that really fires you up, like more than the typical person, it's probably a good indicator of the area that you are meant to operate and be in. Third, try. It's cool to try. Fourth, be a student, and not just in school, be a student of life. It's impossible to know everything. Fifth, having the most money, doing the longest money spread is not the purpose to life. And this last one I learned from playing basketball, but it's really applicable to life as well. The key to success isn't about making every shot. It's about not letting the misses stop you from trying again. You can write that down if you need to. I'm pretty sure you remember this month pretty well. It was literally a few months ago, so this will be a very quick stop. Last year, in 2025, I felt extremely behind. And that was relative to where I thought I would be at 24 years old and those moments when I was comparing myself to my peers. The perspective and lesson that I really had to learn during this time was to accept my path. Some people get on early, some people get on later. It doesn't matter when they get on. All that matters is when you get on. So Regardless of how different your journey may look, stay in your lane, accept the path that God has for you, and keep moving forward. You're the only person that can fulfill the reason why God put you here. I hope that helps. All right, so now let's go back a little further. Wait, before we go back one last time, I want you to keep this quote in mind. All work works. It's either working for me or it's working on me. Myron Golden. 2021. What an interesting year. You know, we were only a year removed from the big panini of 2020. That's so stupid. But at this time, things began lightening up as the vaccines came out and as people became increasingly more restless. Now, remember when I said I would expand on those many phases I had earlier on in this video? Well, we've reached said part of the video. In my search for passion, I searched a lot. I saw the movie You Got Served when I was like 5 or younger, and I wanted to be a dancer. So I tried it. Didn't work out for me. Then I tried to be a skater, then a football player, and then a whole lot of time trying to go to the NBA. And after letting go of those hoop dreams, I thought I found the right place. I thought I found the one. Clothing and graphic design. And I can't lie, this was a real enjoyable process for quite some time. But in hindsight, I realized I was doing it for money and success rather than purpose. I was doing it with the intention of putting something back into me rather than just let it be an outpour of who I was and what was already in me. Now, I bring all this history up because I'm sure you have your own history of things that you probably consider to be failures. But what if I told you all those ventures weren't failures? What if those things were only meant to equip you for what's next? Then it'll be a success, right? All those phases you've lived through could simply be preparation for your calling or purpose. How did I gain that perspective? Well, from skating, I learned how to get back up after falling. Literally. From football, I learned that I didn't want to be a football player. Basketball taught me a whole lot, but some of the biggest takeaways are teamwork and self-motivation, also known as practice. Running a clothing brand taught me how to make content and how to turn ideas into reality. So without all that, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you. And I for sure wouldn't have had the confidence to go and pursue something new. All right, that's enough of the past. Let's go back to the present and talk about purpose versus calling. Welcome back to the big 2026. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the ride so far. If so, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. I really appreciate it. Now, with this amalgamation of a perspective I'm about to share with you, I ask for you to walk with me. I'm definitely going to challenge some preconceived notions here, but I promise I'm not giving you a bunch of bull. And if you have a different perspective on any of this, please comment it down below. I'm always open to new perspectives, and maybe your perspective will help somebody else better than anything I've shared this far. Up to this point, we've actually been talking about calling more than purpose. Let me explain. Most of the time, purpose and calling are viewed as synonymous, right? They're viewed as the same thing. But what if I told you that they're not the same thing? What if I told you that they're partners? Meaning that they're separate, but they do work together. So let's look at purpose and calling as individuals for a second. Callings are what we often conflate with purpose. Callings are actually our areas of giftings or influence, like an athlete, a musician, an actor. It's the work that the Lord has put us on this earth to do. While purpose is more so the reasoning behind the work that is done. For example, somebody like Martin Luther King Jr. His calling was to be a civil rights activist, but his purpose was to be a leader of change, to inspire people to want to fight and to want to have a better America, to want to be free and to want to have equality. Or we could even do somebody like Yeshua, right? His calling was to teach, to heal, to challenge the religious leaders of his time, and to be the perfect example of righteous living. But his purpose was to reconcile us all back to the Father. It was to free us from sin and death, amongst many other things. Glory to God. The Lord's purpose was spiritual, but his calling was the work that we saw on the earth. I hope this is understandable and that you're digesting it, because I'm about to add another layer to this real quick. I'm emphasizing the difference between the two because somebody can be in their calling, but not in their purpose. What makes me say that? Romans 11:29. For the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable without repentance. Meaning that you can find your calling and do extremely well in it if the Lord has already graced you to be a prominent figure in that area of influence or industry, space, whatever. But without purpose partnering with your calling, you can still be unfulfilled. Look at some celebrities, for example. There's people out here that reached the heights of success according to our worldly eyes, right? But still feel unfulfilled. They still are out here searching and grasping for something to fill that God-sized hole in their hearts. And I'm not saying that to judge anybody. I'm just saying it as a matter of fact. You can't find purpose from the work. If anything, purpose is what fuels you to do the work. So I know you may have a question right now where you're thinking, well, if all we talked about up to this point is calling, then what is purpose? Purpose is to walk with God and to be obedient to his leading, his guiding, his word, his teaching, etc. Wait, pause right here. Hi, this is future editor, me. I wanted to expand on this a bit because I didn't do the best job right here. The reason why I say that purpose is to walk with God and to obey him is because a lot of people believe purpose is something that you go out and obtain or attain, right? But purpose isn't tangible in that way. Purpose is very intangible, meaning that the only way to attain purpose is to walk in purpose. You don't go out and grab purpose, you walk in purpose. So like, just to try to simplify it a tiny bit more, because it's really hard to describe, like, I can't lie. It's just like spiritually, you know when you're doing the right thing versus when you're not doing the right thing. And it can take a lot of searching, as we've been talking about throughout this video, but eventually you find that thing that fulfills you and you just keep continuing on in that. And when you do a zoom out view, you'll realize that you're walking in purpose. I hope that makes sense. All right, back to the video. I can't tell you what your purpose is, just like I can't tell you what your calling is. The only person that knows what both of those are is God. And walking with him is the only way for it to be revealed. Now, I know some of you might already be walking with the Lord and be like actually locked in with him, which is great. But I know some of you still feel unfulfilled, right? Because I've had those issues myself. So if that happens to be you, what you may still be searching for is your calling. And if so, please pray about it specifically and reflect on some of the perspectives that I shared here. And regardless of how different your calling is from what you have in your mind, or what you've already implemented steps towards, please trust the Lord and embrace what he has for you. I promise you it'll be so much better than whatever you have thought or created for yourself. That's it for me, man. My name is Kylon, and I thank you for watching. I pray that this video and my journey could help you with you and your journey. Again, please comment below any of your own perspectives that have helped you along the way. Love y'all. We were literally a year removed from the big panini of 2020. I can't even say that.